and welcome to the program. Over the last week, Kyiv has welcomed quite a number of international leaders and diplomats. All of them reassured support for Ukraine in its struggle against Russian aggression and voiced their opinion on the conflict in the east of the country. Joining us in the studio today is Mykola Belyeskov. He's an analyst at the Institute of World Policy. Hello, and thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon.
So, as I already mentioned, in the recent week, Kyiv hosted a number of world-renowned diplomats. Is that a good sign for Ukraine?
Yes, it's a good sign for Ukraine because it means that Ukraine is still at the center of interest, and world powers, centers of influence are still interested in, at least in attempts to resolve the conflict in Ukraine, the conflict in the East, and also we have a clear-cut message from our international partners, from United States of America, from NATO, that we have support from them, that they support the position of Ukraine, because as far as we remember, since Donald Trump assumed office, there was a major anxiety in Ukraine and concern caused by, well, his confusing messages and conflicting even messages concerning Ukraine conflict. And now I can say that we turned this page thanks to the internal situation in the United States, thanks to attempts and sustained work of Ukrainian diplomacy, but now we even have the tweets by President of the United States himself that sanctions will not be removed till the crisis in Ukraine is solved completely. So I can say and I can agree that those visits, those speeches delivered in Kyiv are positive to Ukraine, and in general, they are compatible and they are consistent with Ukrainian course, with Ukrainian national interests.
During his last visit, the Secretary General of NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, stated that the alliance is going to be supporting Ukraine further on. What did he mean by that exactly? Did he mean military support, or was he talking about finance?
Well, NATO is not international intergovernmental organization that can provide major funding. It is the area of IMF, but actually we haven't heard nothing new from the Secretary General of NATO if we compare with the words said yesterday by Poroshenko. Actually, their course remain largely unchanged. They clearly state, first of all, political support to Ukraine, and then they state that they are going to provide Ukraine their expertise, their technical assistance, for instance, in cyber sphere, to protect and defend Ukraine. So the policy is largely unchanged that was adopted back in 2014 at the Wales summit of NATO and reiterated in the Warsaw summit of NATO. And the main point of that policy adopted is that NATO will do everything it can to strengthen Ukraine's defense capabilities to confront Russian aggression, but they are not going to assume the very risks. I mean, they are not going, for instance, to allow Ukraine to become, in very immediate future, the member of NATO, which means that the risk and responsibility will be transferred from Kyiv to Brussels. So their policy is largely unchanged.
When could Ukraine join NATO? Could you give it some forecast?
Well, one of famous theorist of international relations, Kenneth Waltz, said that the person that specializes in international relations cannot say when, but can you say just under what circumstances? So I can provide you the specific date, and it's impossible. Well, if I do this, I will follow the example of Poroshenko when he numerous times stated when Ukraine will get visa-free regime, and we don't get it. But returning to the point, when, I mean, under what circumstances? First of all, and President Poroshenko clearly stated it and continued to state that we need to meet all standards of NATO to apply for membership action plan. And by standards, he means two things. Basically, it is institutional standards, because, for instance, our security and defense sector didn't and doesn't meet all the requirements of NATO, and also it is so-called military standards. It is an interoperability between NATO forces, and it is also adoption of all STANAGs, the so-called standardization agreements that allow Ukraine or forces of current NATO members to operate smoothly.
Kurt Volker, the new special envoy of the U.S. in Ukraine, he's been reaffirmed, well, not reaffirmed, but he's been called the hawk of John McCain. Could you explain?
Well, I don't think that looking at his pedigree and his previous experience, his connections can tell us much, but yes, if we try, we will see the classical Republican, I mean the person who is dedicated to the active foreign policy of the United States, that is dedicated to the idea that Europe shall be whole, free and peace, that borders shall remain unchanged, especially by force. So yes, he is a classical Republican in this term, but again, the major point that Kurt Volker here is to implement, not to formulate, the policy of the United States of America. So his personal opinion, it might be important in the near future, but now it's not important. He is here just now to listen, to watch, and then to convey the messages he get here, maybe convey the same messages he will get in the near future from Moscow to Washington, and then to get clear instructions from Washington what shall he do. So, in my opinion, there is not much to gain from looking in his previous experience and his ideas, his vision concerning Ukraine and Russian conflict, but yes, we can. We have a positive sign because Kurt Volker was a vehement critic of Russia Federation, especially since its aggression against Ukraine.
Now that Ukraine has got all this support from its international allies, would it be possible to say that the conflict in the east of Ukraine will be resolved anytime soon?
Again, talking about specific time frame, I can't say proper dates, but in my opinion, in near future we won't see the resolution of the conflict, given numerous reasons, because Russia doesn't show any signs to make a compromise, to really implement Minsk agreements. Again, if you look at Ukraine, there are some clear red lines that Poroshenko can't cross. For instance, he can't compromise on the issues of security before some political aspects of Minsk agreements are started. So I don't anticipate the resolution of conflict in the East based on the Minsk agreement in the near future.
Thank you so much for such an informative conversation. That was Mykola Belyeskov, an analyst at the Institute of World Policy. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.